as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I loved all of my kids. They were all different. Loved. It was past tense.
Well, you know what? That's what investigators look for. Why are you talking about Warren in the past tense? Yeah. We didn't say he was dead.
He's missing.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mother's Day is coming up, guys, and lo and behold, we had our mom come on the podcast. Mrs. Wendy Clay is mine and Cody's mother.
Not mine.
Not Josh's and not Joel's. Maybe next year we'll get
Not
their
too
moms
late.
to come on. Yeah, not too late. We can
Blood
still
work
get them
hasn't
on
come back yet.
It's true. We're going to be on Maury next month, actually.
Gotta do the paperwork.
here. Yeah. So as far as I know, our mom has been our mom for 34 years. As far as I've checked. I'm not too sure on the math on
I
that.
haven't been
Weird
your mom
statement.
for 34 years.
You know,
Yeah.
wow, this is a whole revelation.
Oh,
I
wow,
was
look
not
at
aware
this.
of.
You heard it here first, folks.
Not too sure if that's the case. So when I talked
Maury.
when I talked to my mom last night about coming on the podcast, she was like, "Are you guys just gonna say like who's like your favorite or like who's your favorite son?" I said, "Well, of course I'm gonna ask you that question. Who's your favorite son?"
Yeah.
It might be Josh if the blood work comes back.
Yeah, it's true. Only because she's had the least amount of interactions with me.
It's absolutely true.
No.
There's actually one of her sons is missing right now. Currently, we don't know where he's at.
Wow.
APB.
One
Warren,
revelation after
APB.
another.
I got a new son. One's
That would be
missing.
such a funny thing to say that casually.
One of her sons is
Yeah,
missing.
believe it or not, one of us is missing.
He's in the woods somewhere. I don't know where he's at.
Yeah.
But no, our younger brother
Sierra
Warren
Nevada.
lives in Japan. He has not been on the podcast yet, and maybe one day in the future he will be. But it's weird because he actually is in the future because Japan is 16 hours ahead of us. So he's already into tomorrow. So
Yeah, I wonder what it's like.
I don't know.
Bunch of
Something
flying
like that.
cars.
But anyway, so got any questions for us,
Flies
Mom?
on cars.
Any questions? Have you done your homework?
She's going to ask us questions.
Did you take a coat?
You didn't
Where were
prepare?
you last night?
No, the first, we've asked you this question many times before, but you had 3 boys, as far as we know.
Where is the third?
Yeah, we do not know.
One's
who the
missing.
You're not, yeah, you haven't been ruled out, by the way.
But no, what's it? Oh, let me rephrase this. What would your life be like if you had only girls?
Does this flash back to a Malcolm in the Middle episode?
Yeah, that was a very classic Malcolm.
Was it
Gladwell
really?
episode. Yeah, where
Wow.
she briefly imagined having all girls instead of the 3 boys, and they were all just like nagging each other and screaming at each other, and the boys were basically doing the same thing, but she kind of like smiles, like, "I'm so glad I had boys" at the end, type of thing. But yeah, anyway, how much do you think it would really be different if you had all girls?
Yeah, actually, I do think it would be a lot different.
Oh, well, then better is the better question.
No.
Yeah.
Would it be
Yeah.
better?
No,
Why do you hate your boys?
Yeah, what's that all about? It's
Why
all
do you
coming
think
out
one
now.
is missing?
I hate him the most.
We put him on that point.
It's interesting you asked that. I've talked to a lot of friends about this. I grew up in a family of girls, had 2 girl cousins, a sister. So I never imagined I would have 3 sons. And over the years, I've compared stories with my friends who have had either all daughters or 1 son and 1 daughter. And I'm convinced if you have more than 1 son, it completely changes the family dynamic. It's like, for example, we were in Japan in this nice hotel in an elevator, and these 3 young little boys come screaming into the elevator, pushing all the buttons, and there's this frantic mother behind them saying, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." And she's like so apologetic, and I'm just looking at her like, you know what? I totally understand. You put more than 1 little boy together.
Yeah.
It's like an exponential increase.
The sum is more than the parts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So,
And if you get that exponential growth increases with each added male.
yes.
And at a certain point, you just get like a full blown riot, and then the SWAT team and tear gas.
Yeah, that's why wars happen.
Yeah, exactly. And then beyond that, yeah, you just get full blown war.
So I could totally see that dynamic happening. But I loved it. I loved it was this crazy, creative, just joyous chaos, especially when all the cousins came over.
So
Joel,
the next question begs, what happened to Cody?
Yeah. What went wrong?
Why did I turn out so weird?
Yeah.
Is what you're trying to say.
Well, you forget he's the oldest out of all you guys. So
Yep, out of all of us.
Josh is older.
Nope, let's just keep that up. I like it.
In terms
Well,
of the
that's
oldest
true.
out of me and
old,
me and
Out of
Lauren,
the
at
three.
least.
right?
Yeah.
So
So, but
the
what?
Guthries were in their own special world.
Yeah, and our own special bus. And special parking lot.
Yeah.
There's parking space. Actually, Matt got his own lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right, Josh is the oldest. Out of my three sons, Cody is the oldest, and
So, which one do you like the most?
Yeah, stop beating around the bush, lady.
Yeah, what-
Give us what we came for.
Why did Cody get the most attention? I just want to ask.
Yeah.
Who fought for the most attention?
Yeah.
and you guys have kind of brought up these issues over the years. Maybe it's your middle child syndrome. You can
Yeah.
bring it up.
No,
or
I
don't think I
there's
really
an
cared.
oldest child syndrome.
No
There's
kidding,
a
Cody.
youngest child
I
syndrome.
think Dylan's the only one that ever cared.
I cared the most. No, I do have a question about this, and I want to stress that this is not a who's your favorite question. That is not implying. I can very confidently
I feel like
say
it's that question.
no. It is not that question, but you guys want it to be that question.
It is.
But it's that question. No, but the question I think
Talk
is
slow,
there's an
can't
interesting
hear us.
layer here, and this applies not just to you, it applies to all parents, which is there's always the idea that when you have a kid, one of them could be more like you, and if you have another kid, they could be more like the other person. So if you have a child that has a similar personality to you, therefore it is, I'm assuming, easier to connect with that child than the other one who is not like you. Maybe not across the board in every single way, but how do you adjust as a parent to make sure that there is no favoritism in that regard? Because suddenly it's easier to connect with this kid and you have to work a lot harder, and the scales are somehow becoming unbalanced in that regard. See?
Okay.
Didn't think I was going to throw that there.
Okay, so that's a two-part
So
question.
So let's
right?
start with which one is most like you and least like you.
And that'll be your favorite.
And then let's get to the other
Ding,
question.
ding,
Who's your favorite child?
Well, now you're presuming that
Bottom line.
I like my own traits.
Well, again,
I mean-
I do agree that that's a whole other question.
Right. So
But no, even if you don't like your own traits, it will certainly, I think, be easier to relate to that person, right?
it could aggravate somebody more.
That's
You
true.
may
Yeah.
not like the traits that you see in your child, and you know they're your own, and that may make it harder to deal with because it's a reflection
That's
of
true,
your
yeah.
own perceived failings. And I don't want to go super deep here, but
We don't want you to either, so don't worry.
Not on this podcast. We don't do that here.
Yeah.
It's
No,
the
but-
same
but-
reason. That's the same reason I had to marry somebody who didn't have a drug addiction, because I just couldn't take that.
two in one household would
Yeah.
be too much.
Yeah, too much.
No, but that's especially true if you are a strong-willed person, or let's say argumentative or something. Because if that person's like you, in those ways, you'll certainly most likely have a harder time
Yeah,
getting along with
absolutely.
them.
Yeah.
Not all
So-
traits are necessarily good to
Yeah.
have, or make it easier to connect with them.
or compatible.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess on another level, which is if whatever child that may or be more easier to connect to, be it they're more like you or not, how do you adjust for that? Is the second part of that question.
Actually, sorry. Maybe start it with a sliver of that question to lead into expanding on it, which is,
What are you talking about, man?
I don't like when you get close to the mic and whisper like
Be a
that.
mediator of some sort.
No, which is, was that a conscious thing that happened? Was there a child that shall remain nameless?
Cody.
I think at this point, kind of obvious though, that you found it easier to have that connection with, and therefore had to compensate or balance it out with other kids, because that's the assumption in your question.
Yeah.
So first we have to figure out if that is a dynamic that happened before she could answer it.
I'm not sure that's a dynamic in this family. I can see why that might be a dynamic in another family.
Yeah.
If your kid is so obviously not like you, not like your husband, and this can happen when, I don't know, in adoptive families, or you have somebody that has no shared DNA, and this is like purely biological, and they don't have your same mannerisms, your same way of responding to either joy or stress, and you don't understand that. And it's not like you don't love them and you're not trying to love them. but I think there's something about having your own DNA and the DNA of the person you love and you married and you know intimately. And those are the traits you already naturally are familiar with that you like. We're assuming you married your spouse because you liked the general basket of their traits and of their family. So just by naturally having children with your spouse, you get a baby that is something you're familiar with. So, and, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I loved all of my kids. They were all different. Loved. It was past tense.
Wow, you know what? That's what investigators look for. Why are you talking about Warren in the past tense? Yeah. We didn't say he was
He's
dead.
missing.
He's just gone somewhere.
But Your Honor.
It's interesting because you get, and I noticed this from birth of each of my children, that they are so different.
Needy. Oh, different. Sorry.
They're so different.
Hideous.
Just behaviorally, genetically,
Yeah.
just from birth. There's nothing I did that they could accurately blame me on.
Well, I don't know.
That's your
Blame
get out of jail
on me.
free card.
You were like that from the get-go,
You
kid.
know, I have a recording. No.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure all the alcohol you drank while you were pregnant with me has had a major effect.
That's why you're Merlot and you're Pinot.
That's
Pinot, that's right. I peed all over you.
Your almond milk.
I'll take it, man.
Yeah. Nothing hides the pain like
Soy
almond
milk, Budweiser. Yeah.
No, my brother talks about that all the time. He has a boy and a girl, and he just talks about how the differences between them and how they were like that from the womb, and how that has like everyone always. We even on the podcast we've had this debate or discussion around the influence, a ratio of influence of nature versus nurture, and he was saying that like having kids has influenced his opinion of that because it to him seems like so much of everything is just nature. Like they come out the way they are, and you can maybe like influence them to a degree here or there, but overall they're set.
Yeah, and I think that is the job of a parent, to identify the needs of every particular child, and they're different. And someone say that's why you can't treat them equally in all ways, because you're addressing a very unique human being for each child you have, and you try to speak to that.
Especially that guy over there.
Special needs.
Why are you guys
You're
picking on
getting
Cody?
getting better.
Well, look at him. I mean,
He's the
asking
oldest
for it.
child. You're picking
I'm
on.
pretty sure we spent most of the podcast
Their
picking
oldest
on Dylan
Well,
before.
they gotta bring me down so they bring themselves up.
It's true. I can't get up any other way.
Yeah.
I can tell. That's why you're wearing black.
It's true. And drinking.
Yeah. Wait, Joel, are you wearing a black shirt?
Blue.
Yeah, I think you are wearing a blue.
Navy
I was wearing blue.
blue.
Okay. Well, as I say, why is
Joel,
I was
can
like,
you
why is
leave
black
some
the theme?
space for the rest of us to talk, maybe?
I know. Well, Joel, I mean, did you have like youngest child issues? Did you have that dynamic growing? I mean, Josh, you're a youngest boy. You're youngest child and youngest boy. Dylan, your middle child. Joel, your youngest boy and child. Did you ever feel like, oh, I'm not getting mom's attention, or did you somehow feel like that was a disadvantage?
Cody and I are boy and child.
Mother and child.
Mother's child.
No, I think I had a pretty sweet deal. I think Luke went through
Napoleon.
a lot of the growing pains that both my mom and dad went through of, just raising a child. I'm sure you learn a lot as you go. And by the time I came, they already knew what to do and what not to do, or what to worry about, what not to worry about. So I think I kind of went under the radar in regard to like getting in trouble a lot. So I seemed like the perfect child just because like everything I did, they're like, oh, we don't have to worry about that. That's not a big deal, whatever. So in that sense, I think I got treated, with as much attention as Luke, but I got the better deal as it not getting in trouble as much. Plus, he had the, horrible circumstance of being an older brother, and it's like a natural requirement that you have to beat up on your little brother. So he got in trouble more for that than because he had the opportunity and I didn't.
The opportunity. Oh, you missed out, Joel.
It's his privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think there's another question here I want to ask too. and it's something in pertain to. It's a very popular subject that comes up, which is about being a working mother. Now, growing up, Cody and I got to see you half the time. We'd spend half the time with our dad, but you, from time to time, you'd be in different jobs. And I remember very clearly you had made a statement that I never forgot, and I wanted to follow up with it and see if you've changed your mind on it.
Oh, boy.
This was a long time ago.
Don't worry, it's just going to go on the internet.
Yeah, don't worry.
I'm going to drink some of my water.
It was, you hated Trump. No, that was way long time ago. No.
She probably still did it.
No, it's, you said that you have been the stay-at-home mom full-time, and you've also been the mom who works a full-time job. And you would, any day of the week, be the stay-at-home mom. There's a lot of women out there that say that being a stay-at-home mom is a disadvantage or a burden, if you will, to their careers and to their future financial success. Do you think that statement you made is still, you still hold that opinion, that you would still recommend people, if they could make the choice, that you preferred one or the other? This is not universal for every single person out there, but do you still think that you hold that opinion?
I'm not sure I ever said that.
The answer is no.
Pretty sure you did.
Roll the clip.
We got
Give us
footage.
proof.
Wait, what are you saying again? I know what my position is. I think maybe you misinterpreted. You're saying
Well,
I
there's
would
two parts to this
recommend
question.
a...
One, do you still hold that opinion? And two,
What's
would you...
the opinion?
That you would rather be a stay-at-home mom than be a mom who works a full-time job.
If I only had those two choices?
Yes. There were some times where you were definitely a hybrid of both.
Yeah.
You'd be working, and I think that's probably the case.
And the
that's the case
ideal
most of the
is
time.
both. And
Yeah.
I think maybe, I mean, I have said that having a full-time job is a lot easier than being a full-time parent. It's a lot easier. So that may be what you
Have
may
you ever
have
worked at
heard.
Albertsons?
But
What jobs are we talking about specifically?
Yeah.
But I certainly enjoyed being a mother more than I enjoyed working full-time. I enjoyed, the aspect of making money and having a career and feeling confident that,
sound
I'm
just like Trump.
economically stable. Anybody needs that security in their life. So that part was fulfilling. So, but I enjoyed being a mom more than anything in my life. And I would not have missed that for anything. If I'd have been working full time and been that mother that is like on the weekends trying to cram in a soccer game or a birthday party, I would have missed so many things.
So wait, I'm kind of confused on your answer. You're saying that you liked one more than the other, but you would prefer to be the other one? I'm not
No,
sure.
I'm just saying that I think working is important for women. Earning a living is
Yes,
extremely
I
important
agree,
for
yeah.
both men and women. And to know that you can or are doing that for your family we can't get around it. Yeah, we'd all like to do what we want all day long and not have to go to our jobs, whatever. So, but it's important to be able and contribute to society and to have colleagues and peers that are adults. And that's all important for both men and women. So it's an important part of life. It's the whole juggling thing that gets really wacky, especially for women and more so for men now that they're sharing more of the responsibility, trying to juggle a full-time job and being full-time parents is just crazy. It's insane. And if you look back in our society, you had extended families that lived together where you had the grandparents would stay at home and watch the kids. The working age adults would go to a job, right? And the younger children would eventually help with the babies, as they, so it was a community that you had in your house. You didn't have to call a sitter, find grandma. If your kid got sick while you were working, you didn't have to run home and risk your job. There was a whole community and a network and an extended family to help you. And I think that's where we've gone off the rails, to avoid that whole problem. So
I also think that at least a lot of modern companies, I think, are a lot more conscientious about giving parents time or benefits that allow them to have certain liberties that maybe they didn't used to have.
There's a lot more flexibility there.
Yeah, because everyone's, I think, a bit more sensitive now around any sort of discrimination. And you can certainly have the position of I'm being discriminated against if I'm experiencing negative repercussions due to the fact I'm just having to facilitate fundamental duties of being a parent. And so, but I don't know to what degree. I'm not a parent, and I'm pretty much still a child. So,
Well, it just brings me back. All right, go ahead, Joel.
I was just gonna say, certainly companies or companies can be understanding, but also accommodating, in the sense that at least a lot of bigger companies in Seattle have actual mothers' rooms, is what they call them, in the actual building. So, a new mother can go into a secured room and breastfeed if they need to while on the job.
yep, I have at our company we have one.
Yeah, I think it's
I take my
it's
naps.
relatively new, but it's spreading like wildfire.
Yeah. I think there's, like you said, there's a lot more flexibility there. But again, I still just don't understand, why is Cody your favorite?
It's true. Answer it, Wendy.
We all know.
Actually, so I have we do too. So here's a question. Actually, so first child's a boy.
Second child's maybe a boy.
Yeah. The second time around, were you hoping for a girl?
Well, sure. Yeah, you want that balance of.
Oh man, it's becoming more obvious by the moment.
Here we go.
Lucky for
We
you,
trapped your
Dylan.
boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Look,
I think
we
any
tried your
ideal
boys.
family wants. Okay, you want a boy and a girl. It's the whole Brady bunch.
Well, lucky for you,
Okay, one
Dylan's
for
super
each.
feminine.
As to say, luckily,
But,
I
I mean-
kind of count as one.
Looking back on it now, it's like I am so glad I got all boys
Oh,
because
geez,
if
saving
there'd have been
face.
like a girl in there, I would have had to buy
Cat's out of the bag.
a whole bunch more different clothes, and entertaining them would have been so difficult because the girl wants to do this and the boy wants to do that. But I had 3 boys that loved doing the same thing together, and
Tickle fights.
I could not be happier with
I think
hours.
the way that
Until our mid-20s.
I think you're painting a pretty bright picture now, but I think you're only saying this because when you try to fit Dylan into those dresses you bought him, it just didn't work.
I never went down the pink aisle in Toys
Yeah.
R Us. Never had to.
Well,
No matter how many times Dylan asked.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I would totally agree that like any parent wants the ideal situation. They want one boy, one girl, but that's from the parent's perspective. From Cody's perspective, or at least from the firstborn's perspective, you'd probably want a sibling that is of the same gender. Absolutely. Like if you're a girl, you'd want a sister.
Yes.
Absolutely. And if you're a boy, you'd want a brother. I think that works out better. And I think for the most part, I mean, Cody and I hate each other's guts.
It's true.
But like if we were
No,
I wish
that was
sister.
that was the first super mom response we got on this podcast. No,
I don't think you guys never got into like a full on like knife fight.
He's right. I've been trying to kill him.
Absolutely.
No, it's funny because you were asking earlier about like the dynamic of being the youngest child, and I've always been a bit jealous of the fact that Luke and Joel, Cody and Dillon have been so close in age, because you have like a built-in buddy to mess around with. I'm the youngest by far, so my brother, I'm 8 years younger than my brother and 5 years younger than my sister. Doctors called it being the accident, which, funny enough, so is exactly what my mom and dad call it. But we don't have to go there right now. And how like you're potentially treated different because of that, and I absolutely think I was, because I think by the time I came around, they went through so much with my brother and sister that I was basically raised like a feral cat. like once in a while I would see them like wake up to go to work, and that's because I was like out like in the barn sleeping in the hay, and I would wake up and just like run into the shadow and crouch until
Get away.
until they left, and then I would go see if there's like food on the floor in the kitchen.
Well, that's actually, it's an interesting, he's talking about the dynamic between first, second, and third.
Word track.
Like is it true that when you have your first kid, it's like this, gotta do everything right,
yeah.
gotta make sure, and then the third one, you're like, go do whatever you want. Go to move to Japan. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
care.
I my parents didn't like the last parent teacher conference. They had to like ask for the address of the school. My senior year.
Where does he go?
Yeah. Where
is
is
he
it
even
again?
there? This was a couple years ago.
Yeah, it took me. Yeah, I finally got there. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's what Joel was saying. And I can see it now with Cody. We'd jump out of the shower the minute he cried. You know, if he was like crying in his
in the shower
bassinet.
so often.
Or we'd like run, in the middle of the night, and then by the time Dylan and Warren came along, it's like, they'll be fine. Yeah.
See, this is what went wrong.
Yeah. Broken legs heal themselves.
So I think that's what Joel was saying about your parents have been broken in, and they know you're not going to break. And Dylan's the only one who could maybe break himself with that glass table.
Oh
There's
my
always
God.
sudden infant death.
Sudden infant death. You know what though? That I feel like if retrospectively, that the breaking of that glass table, and Dylan, you got to roll the clip.
Oh heck yeah!
But we have gotten so much mileage out of that stupid clip.
Oh my gosh, man!
I think it's pretty much worth it at this point. Maybe not to.
Oh, I mean, here's the thing: is that I know. I mean, this is no joke. I think you are quite honestly have PTSD from that exact experience.
No, when I think of that,
it gives you shivers.
my stomach turns and I get dizzy. And
So we have to
Really?
we got to dance
Yeah.
around a little bit, but nonetheless, I agree with Josh in the context that footage is priceless to me.
For the people listening and who can't see the clip, Dylan, can you explain exactly what happened?
Yeah, long story short, this was back in 1999. I was 12 years old or something. I got up early on a Saturday morning. I was going to shoot a home movie by myself. And the scene that I wrote out required me to do a stunt on the coffee table that's right in front of us.
Man,
it is not this coffee table. It has since been replaced. It was a glass coffee table or just a sheet of glass on top of it.
it was like an inch thick.
Yeah,
right?
and I attempted to roll across it, as in I was ducking for cover, and I was not a light kid, if you will. I was a little on the chunky side.
Dude, you could have been a large cat. You can't jump on a glass sheet.
I don't
like
know.
that
This
and
thing
not
was
break
pretty
it.
sturdy. I had sat on this thing before. It was pretty sturdy. But yeah, no. Anyway, just stupid. I jumped on it jumped/rolled on it, and it
Jump.
completely shattered. And I managed to roll across it. And the aftermath is the scariest part. Is just because it literally was like sheets of daggers, and I kind of walked away. It's one of those things I don't think I realized how close that could have been major. I could not be here basically. So this is why she doesn't like to talk about this. But
I want you to not just roll the clip, but just to do it like a GIF, just to have that moment.
zoom in on my mom's horrified face.
Yeah, right now, face in the hands, and then.
Oh, no. Yeah, that was. And I walked away with just one cut on my elbow. And the funniest story of this whole thing, just real quick, funny story, is that my mom was freaking out. She calls my dad. He comes by. She's like, "You gotta take him. There's just chaos everywhere." So my dad takes me. My dad's a meat cutter, so he's seen all kinds of cuts in his life. And he's like, "Listen, I ain't gonna take you to the doctor unless I see this cut and know how bad it is." And he looks at it. He goes, "We'll just get you a bandage. I think it's okay." I think it just kind of freaked out a little bit. And he worked at Albertsons, the grocery store. So he said, "I don't want to go into Albertsons and get a bandage because they'll ask me a bunch of work questions. So let's go to Vaughn's." So he sits there in the parking lot, in Vaughn's parking lot. I'm holding my arm, still in shock as to what happened. And he has Albertsons written on his sleeve because he's wearing his work shirt. And he goes, "I don't think I should go into Vaughn's wearing an Albertsons work shirt. What should I do?" So he starts rolling up his sleeves. And he rolls them all the way up to his shoulders. And he goes, "All right, now no one will know." I'm like, "You look like a complete moron. What are you doing?"
First of all, no one at Vaughn's. It's like you're gonna have a back alley knife fight where you're gonna have to do a dance routine beforehand. You're gonna circle each other when you tie your wrists together.
Just-
the meat cutter managers. They can
Just
care
sitting there,
less.
I'm over here just going, I just escaped death by inches, and you're over here just going, the Vaughn's employees might notice that I work for hours.
Yeah.
It's like the red box comment.
Yeah. It's literally
It's like
the red box.
Yeah.
Dad's under pressure.
Yeah.
What do I do? Yeah, something along those
Dad's
lines.
under pressure. Complete collapse.
What was the time that scared you the most with Cody? What was the time you got the most mad with him? Or
Just as his personality developed.
just in general?
That's a tough question. I don't think Cody was ever as
Rambunctious.
rambunctious. He was usually, the one letting you out the side gate so you could go play in the street.
Little Tasmanian devil. Here I go.
He was a little more thoughtful in his
I will
His
say, though,
actions,
I had
yeah.
probably the worst incident, but Warren, without a doubt, was the craziest of us three.
Really?
Without question. I
Really?
think that is an easy contest. As a kid, now he's Cody 2.0.
Cyborg.
He's really quiet. I don't know if you remember that. Cody, you can vouch for me on this one. Warren was the craziest one of us three, right?
Yeah, physically. He did a lot of physical things.
Who was the most mental
Yeah.
crazy person?
Me.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what was I? Just nothing?
Just a kind of like a silhouette, like a blank
You were
person.
very, very vanilla.
I was
Yep.
You're like a Backstreet Boy.
I don't know. You used to walk in the
I was
walls
Alice
on
Cooper.
purpose.
Yeah. I mean, don't get us wrong. You're sexy as hell.
I don't want to
That's all you got.
what we're trying to say here. You're a sexy beast, you son of a gun. Middle child.
I mean, you're a walking joke, but you know.
Actually, I'm in the unique position of all this group here to be the only middle child that can speak. So
It's true.
there's some younger one. You're the youngest. You only had one older sister. So when you had only boys. Was there anything you had to change? What was the thing that was the most drastic change?
Diapers.
Still.
There was no comedy on this podcast. It's all serious.
No kidding.
But was there anything in pertains to boys that you suddenly were like, I didn't realize that before?
They have penises.
Diapers.
They have diapers. Something along those lines. Personality-wise, or like,
Well, I didn't understand why you guys didn't like Barbie dolls. I had saved my
Tried to
toys
do
for
that.
you guys, and
Yeah.
when I gave them to you, you immediately ripped the heads off
We
and
do
tore
now.
and destroyed all the clothes, and they were in pieces. And I was just like horrified.
An
what are
acquired
you
taste.
doing
Like,
with this?
who are these people?
Again,
Don't
feral
they know
children.
how to play dolls and
Was there
dress?
sensitive side?
Yeah.
So just the sheer physicality is exhausting. And I think you'll hear this from any parent that has boys, especially 3 of them. I mean, if leashes had been legal back then, I would have kept you all on leashes, because, Cody kind of stuck around, but he would let you out of the gate.
And reporting you to child services.
And then by the time Warren came along, he was just running like a madman out the front door whenever he woke up from a nap. So
So there's like a modern conversation around the female and male kind of archetypes, like are forced upon kids, and that being kind of like a social debate. But I think what you're saying is that there's, not that that's the case all the time, but there's certainly something to be said for that being ingrained in most males from the get-go. Like, if we see I remember talking, all of us grew up at our grandma's house, and I remember, I don't know what made me think about this the other day, but their backyard is lined by this really, it's like a 12, 13-foot wall with like a bricks width on top of it, and we used to walk on it all the time. And I remember Grandma getting mad because she'd be like, "Hey, don't you know that's dangerous?" And I remember like sitting down with Grandma and being like, "Don't you understand that the only reason we're doing that is because it's dangerous?" I'm like, that is the only reason we would walk there instead of there, which is there is inherent risk involved in that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know why that is something I need, but it's something I need.
Something I need to fulfill in myself. It's my destiny.
But look, I don't think that was something that like at some point we got from our dad sitting us down and being like, "Look, you need to risk life and limb."
well, I think guys just want adventure,
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like with Warren, it was like he doubled down on it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well,
Well, he had 2 older brothers to keep up with, so.
I don't know. It was that and the combination of like third child syndrome. Don't care anymore. Just let him do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think a lot of it is just that's naturally how Warren is. But it's so funny because Warren is now the polar opposite of that behavior. He's the stoic, doesn't say much, just listens. And if you have a technical problem, he will solve it in 2 seconds. He's kind of like Joel's dad when it comes to handiwork.
Attraction to Janet.
Joel's
Even
mom,
that's
for the record.
questionable.
Yeah. It's like, where are you going with this?
Basically, what Joel's dad is to handiwork is what Warren is to technical issues. Warren
Really?
can solve any pretty much technical issue.
That's the whole male thing, like liking to fix things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a male thing.
so
Women,
good at
women like to
dolls.
break things.
Huh?
That's why you took the dolls
It's freaking
apart.
true.
It's like, what? How is this thing made?
How do you put it
It's
together?
not why it takes
But
prostitutes to
I am
apart.
the exception to that rule because I do not like fixing things unless it's really easy and it takes less than 10 minutes.
He knows what he likes.
I was gonna ask Wendy. So we already kind of discussed one of the biggest concerns you had with Dylan, which is breaking the glass table and making stupid decisions. What was there like a moment that you were just absolutely furious at Cody with that you're allowed to talk on the podcast about?
I remember when
Being
he
born.
was.
Yep.
Well, I think when Dylan was
You
born,
were born
Cody
wrong.
drew all over our white couch with markers.
Oh man.
That's classic.
But I think Grandma Gwen taught you that.
She taught me that after I'd already done that.
Yeah. Do it again.
I taught her.
Here's your out.
Yeah.
Tell her
I remember first grade, the first day of first grade, when I was kicking and screaming for the first 2 days. Actually,
Yeah. Well, that didn't make me angry. I just felt bad.
yeah, that.
Cody did not want to go to school.
Oh my gosh.
He was not.
I
Going
remember
to school.
you had one arm and the teacher had the other arm, and for some reason you were pulling me in both directions, opposite directions.
Rip him apart.
Elastic
Like,
Yeah, the teacher was trying to take him back to his house, and Wendy was trying to bring him in school.
get in my van.
They're like, is this a Stretch
Are
Armstrong?
you the teacher?
Yeah, he's a teacher.
There was no classroom.
That I
In a back alley somewhere.
that's what was that, preschool or was that
That
kindergarten?
was first grade.
First grade.
I had an easier time in kindergarten than I did first grade for some reason.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was
in
a-
college,
well,
it was the same
It was a different school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of fell for the whole, Mom and Dad thinks this is cool, I'm going to go to kindergarten. And then it took you a year to realize they're faking me out. This is BS.
Well, because I was on the front page of the newspaper in kindergarten the first day, and then like they didn't take my
She's
picture
had multiple kids missing? You just happened to find your way back home?
and the milk carton.
Yeah. Oh, he's good, he's safe.
No, they took my picture on the first day of kindergarten, and then I was upset that they didn't take my picture on the first day of first grade.
like, I'm not special anymore.
Bring the cameras.
I'm not going here.
I'm not famous anymore.
What, is this amateur hour?
I was trying to draw attention to myself,
Oh my god.
so I killed the teacher.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my picture taken no matter what.
I will not
Dude,
learn a thing
that-
unless somebody takes a picture of me.
I kept screaming, "Bring the news!"
This is a major news event.
That's been your catchphrase ever since.
Bring the news, folks. Yeah.
Well, what about Warren? Is there any horror stories with Warren?
Just
many?
him, just like always, like vanishing like Houdini.
It's just gone
Wow.
somewhere.
You're really going for this narrative about a missing
Well,
kid.
remember the one with in Washington D.C. when he went? I forget where we were in the Ford Theater. And didn't he like cross a line and the armed guards
Shot him.
came up? And shot him?
That whole
No,
problem.
he was literally jumping over all the barriers in Washington D.C. and we had like the
awesome.
guys with the guns, like,
Yeah.
you know, we're walking through the mall and Warren is like leaping over the barriers to touch the statues and
That's awesome.
he's like Ren and Stimpy on the Lincoln Memorial, right? He was climbing up Lincoln trying to find the.
The
You know what?
Carl
If you're going for the hold on, if Wendy's going for the coolest mom award by referencing Malcolm in the Middle episodes and Ren and Stimpy episodes, oh, you got it, lady. Just relax.
We should get your mom on here, Josh, and see if she can compete.
Well, I don't know what compete means, but
Knife fight.
Yeah, but when it comes to horror stories about our kids, yeah, she'll keep up.
That's gonna be like a,
Yeah, see, I'm
2020
like,
episode.
Yes.
telling things about my kids. I'm sure. Yeah, I'd like to hear from.
Yeah.
Debbie and Jen.
With my mom, there'll be a lot less laughing, and there'll be a
Tears.
Lot, oh yeah, a lot more. Like, they don't call. I don't know what they're doing. When I was raising them, they were in jail constantly.
Is it? I'm assuming it's true that you never stop worrying about your kids, but you have to admit there's less worry as they get older, right? There's got to be at least a little bit of depreciation in that stock.
You worry about different things. I don't think that fear ever goes away. You know, it's like every time a mother hears a siren, They do a mental check. Where are my kids?
Oh, man.
And I think that just is forever.
Yeah.
I used to hear my grandmother telling my dad when he was 45, it's like, take a sweater out. You're going outside. I was like, what's wrong with that lady? He's a grown man. But
Okay, I do have another question, and this one's a little on the deeper side. So here we go.
Oh, they tuned out.
So I know the answer already is that between being when you were single back before you had Cody and where you are now, obviously you would say you're much happier that you have had kids. But on the scale of happiness, when it comes to before you had kids, before we were ever in the picture, are they much closer on the scales in terms of happiness before kids and after?
Are you asking her if she's happy that she had kids?
No. That's not the question. I'm
and
asking,
I actually have an answer
are
for
they
this.
closer than people? Because no parent would say I was happier before I had kids.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not the answer.
Yeah.
But are they closer than people realize?
Well, when I was 12, I hadn't had much of a life by then.
You had kids when you were
No.
12?
I'm kidding.
Actually, you make a good point, and the reason I'm asking that is because I think Cody and I have actually talked about this before. Is that whenever we have kids, what time that is, I can only think of the happiest times I've had was when I was a little kid, doing whatever, just having fun, doing whatever that is. So when parents say the best and happiest times they've ever had in their life is when they have their kids, I'm like, I don't know what that happiness is. I can only equate it to something I've done without kids. So is that happiness even close to the happiness of having kids?
Well, Irma Bombeck had a great quote, and I always remembered it. She said, if I would have known how much work having children was, I never would have had them. But now that I have
In
them...
podcast.
Boo, come to
No,
credit.
there's a second part. She said, but now that I have them, I wouldn't have missed it for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about happiness, it's about
Fulfillment.
the joy of parenthood. And that is so fulfilling. And whether you want to call that happiness, I call it happiness. So definitely happier with being a mother.
I think it's like anything really difficult that you go through to attain something or experience something, or like so I don't have kids, but I'm pretty career driven, and like there are times certainly when I'm just like so stressed out that you're like, why am I even doing this? Like, why do I try so hard? Because I'm so unhappy sometimes. I'm so stressed out.
I mean, sometimes.
Yeah, I can't sleep. I keep drinking, and then I got the job. No,
That's like having kids, too.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. But at the same time, and there's like a lot of philosophical tenets about this, the difference between like happiness and fulfillment or true satisfaction.
Or purpose.
Yeah,
or-
and that's I don't know because I don't have kids, but what you just said makes me think that it's similar to any other thing that's super difficult that you go through that results in some kind of fulfillment that is beyond the idea of I feel good right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which
We got Cody's thoughts.
Those are my thoughts.
yeah, see, now that makes me happy.
It's a
And
little
I'm
thing
fulfilled.
sometimes.
But yeah, I imagine it's the same thing because look, in the end, I don't have kids, but I know that it's not super fun to wake up in the middle of the night. It's not fun to change diapers. It's not fun to have to leave work early because your kid thought he could roll across a glass coffee table.
She had to wake up at like 8 a.m.
on a weekend.
Yes.
On a weekend.
But at the same time, like, yeah, those things don't make you happy, but there's something that is substantial enough or has a degree of depth that goes beyond, hey, like, this feels good or this makes me happy for the moment or whatever. I don't think I'll ever have kids because they're annoying, but I understand.
Well, they do grow up.
Yeah, and they get worse.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Then they can
But
physically
yeah, and
beat
it's
you
not
up.
for everybody. I mean, you have to want it. I knew I wanted kids at an early age, and I did it, and that's what I wanted, and I would do it the same way again. So that is a choice that people make. So yeah, it's not going to be the same for everybody. But for me, Yes, I wouldn't change a thing.
Hold on.
Except you not jumping on that table.
Yeah, I was
Oh
saying.
man, God, can you please just every time it's mentioned, just roll a clip?
Here it is.
please.
Just on loop. Whoa!
No, it's stuck in my head. I know it's the play it. It's your stupid moan afterwards that makes me laugh every time.
What's funny is that like that's like my mom's most like probably one of her worst memories.
And we're gonna keep rolling
on the
it.
one episode she's on, we're just gonna play that audio clip over
Oh,
and over
man.
again.
And
that
I'm
makes it
sure
all
there's
worth it.
stuff that you guys did as kids that I didn't get to see that are probably worse than the
Like
table.
when Joel broke his
Oh yeah,
collarbone.
yeah, that was a
Joel-
weird
but,
watch.
but
How
that
do you feel
wasn't
about
that wasn't because I was stupid. That was just because that bike was messed up
No, you were riding the bike way too fast.
Joel, now you know.
way too fast.
We're gonna play that clip too, but
Yeah.
Every time
It was right off frame.
every
I like how this turns into just a Faces of Death video.
And you wonder why parents are like,
yeah. Well, actually, a lot of the videos that we've done, I mean, I'd say 99% of them were shot in this house.
Oh, yeah.
Which is obviously that it's your house. So I'm assuming half the time you were just hearing crashes and
my
screams. Because obviously we did a lot of video production, so you've probably heard 1,000 things where you just at those times you're just going, well, I hope they're not dead.
well, then when you start driving and you start telling me you're doing 90 miles an hour on the wrong side of the road in a
Did one of us say
non-stuck
that?
vehicle.
Yeah, I told you that.
You have hard evidence?
No, actually, that reminds me. So it's like it reminds me. I've been in a couple bands, and like we'd practice at this one house, and our drummer's dad was always around, and he was just always hearing this music, and so he was kind of like immune to it or callous to it. So our bar for good music was if we could get the dad to like walk in and give us like the nod, like, "Oh yeah, that looks good," or "That sounds good," because it was like this was good enough to catch his attention. It was the same thing with Wendy whenever we were filming something, because I mean, you've heard it all. But every once in a while, we'd make a joke, and I could hear you laugh. Yeah. I could hear, that laugh right there. I could hear that coming from the other room. I'm like, oh, we got it.
It's
All
a good
right.
one. It's a good one.
Yeah,
boys.
it's a good one.
Cut and print.
I know there was one distinct moment because, again, our mom was very forgiving of anything we did. She was just like, yeah, just do what you want. Just, again, don't, if you're going to be doing something, just do it here. Don't do it out there.
Stay away from the glass furniture.
Yeah, basically. But I remember there was one
round.
time she stepped in here. She was like, what are you guys doing? We were rummaging through this closet over here, and it was Luke. And he found a bottle of Dom Perignon.
Oh, my God.
And you came out and you're like, put that down.
I started hearing him. He's like, "Oh, look at this!" And you guys were all talking. Yeah, that's Dom Perignon. And then he said, "Let me juggle it."
Oh, my God.
Juggle
By
it?
the way, if that
I
happened
think
today...
I think I was fairly calm. I just said,
Well, it's because it was Luke. It wasn't her kid, so she had to be like, like sweating beads. But you
Yeah.
know, if it was me or Dylan, it would be
Where'd
knife
you
to the
get?
heart.
So what's? I don't. I'm like a slack-jawed yokel from Ventura. I don't know how much Don Perignon costs. What's like the?
"Well, and it's not even that
170.
much. I mean, it's $100 or whatever. But
It's a little over. 100.
No, Don Perignon.
for a nice one,
Wait,
it's,
Oh, I'm thinking.
Depends on the vintage.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
of Cristal. Cristal's like $1,000.
oh yeah, no, Luke would have been in a headlock.
Yeah.
And then he would have eaten you.
Yeah.
I would have done a dive.
You like 5'4" against the 6'3" guy, you know?
Yeah. Today if that happens. I like how Luke's trying to steal a bottle of Cristal today from Wendy.
He comes to
And
our
no,
house.
it was all you guys were just all joking around. I know it was.
Don
I just remember there was one time I was like, you made my mom come out here. That never happened.
Yeah. And it was about
Yeah,
her precious alcohol. We all know.
The difference today would be, you know, back then Luke would be doing it for the camera for laughs, and today it would just be for his alcohol problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love you, Luke. You can have the bottle.
Yeah. Wherever he is. He's missing too,
buy
by the
you
way.
one.
He's not watching.
Yeah,
Yeah. Where is Luke, by the way?
He's at a wedding right now.
probably
It's,
having some Dom Perignon.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's what he's doing.
He finally
He
got it.
said, he's like, wedding podcast. And I said, we all know the answer, but go to the wedding anyway.
That's funny.
Well, I think we are out of time. But thank you, old mother, for showing up.
That's what she wants to hear. Yeah. That was. Yeah.
You got to tease your mom. That's just what you got to do. That's what happens.
Is this airing on Mother's Day?
No, it'll be out before Mother's Day, but leading up to it, it'll be there.
All
But,
right. Well, I just wanted to, because Mom, if you're listening, don't expect a lot.
well, in that nature, happy early Mother's Day.
Well, thank
to
you.
Yes.
It was a pleasure.
And thank
being
you
with
for
you
coming
guys.
on and dealing with all of the craziness that we do in your house. That you basically moved out Instead, they took over.
You know, at the beginning, I said, you know what? I don't care if things get broken if we just have a good time. That's always been my motto. So, you know.
Well, except for the one time we broke that lamp the day after you bought it.
Oh yeah, that was another time she got really mad.
She was.
It's okay.
having a
I'm over
fit.
it. 10 years of therapy got me over that.
You got over it probably
I'm over
yesterday.
it.
But to be fair, we should probably roll that clip one more time.
Oh god.
It's just the gift that keeps on giving.
It's priceless footage. You gotta admit, as horrifying as it is.
She can't do it. She can't admit it.
Nope. Can't do it. All right. Well, anyway, you guys should subscribe to our YouTube channel and check us out on all our social media accounts like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, all that fun stuff. But if you want to see more of this stuff, come back next week or check out some more of our episodes online. And we will see you guys next week. Bye!
Bye.
Bye.